Welcome back to another explainer. Look, I am absolutely thrilled to have you here today because, as our source material reveals, there is a monumental transformation happening in global finance right now. It's arguably the biggest, most underreported financial shift of our entire lifetime. So let's just dive right into this because what we're about to unpack is going to completely change how you view the world's money. Where did the US dollar go? Seriously. This is the question that should literally be headlining every major financial news network. Yet the sudden vanishing act of the dollar's absolute global dominance just isn't getting the coverage it warrants. While the market's attention is constantly pulled toward AI or the newest tech stocks, our sources highlight a fundamental underlying rewiring of the world's money that's just flying completely under the radar. And the data really tells the story here. 1992. Global reserves of the US dollar have quietly hit their lowest level since that specific year. Just let that sink in for a second. We're seeing a multi-decade low in the dominance of the world's primary reserve currency. And yet, there are no breaking news alerts. There are no sweaty analysts panicking on TV. It's just an eerie quiet. But make no mistake, that drop isn't an accident. It's the result of a highly coordinated effort happening entirely in the background. Which brings us to Section 1, the quiet financial shift. Rewiring global finance in the shadows. Here is the reality of what's happening while we're all distracted. A coalition of 11 emerging nations has been busy constructing a parallel infrastructure. They're actively building a blockchain-based financial system with the stated explicit goal of bypassing the US dollar entirely. They aren't trying to just reform the current system. They are building a completely parallel structure from scratch to break America's monopoly on global price discovery. Now, to really grasp the stakes here, we need to look at Section 2, America's exorbitant privilege, the ultimate financial cheat code. You've probably heard the term exorbitant privilege before. It's a very real economic concept. Because the dollar serves as the default backbone of global finance, the US gets these massive, distinct advantages. We're talking about acting as the supreme regulator of global trade, being able to borrow money at significantly lower interest rates than anyone else, and the ability to monitor exactly who is shipping what to where all around the globe. It's like having the master key to the global economy. Let's think about how that privilege actually functions in practice. Okay, let's say Brazil wants to trade with China. These are two sovereign nations with absolutely no connection to the United States in this specific transaction. But historically, they have to route that transaction through a correspondent bank in New York, like JP Morgan or Citi. Every payment, every settlement touches the American financial system. Washington sees the whole shebang, and essentially, Washington has to permit it all. But hey, every system has a breaking point, right? And for the global dollar monopoly, that breaking point arrived recently. This brings us to Section 3. The sanctions shockwave, a chilling signal to global central banks. $300 billion. In 2022, the United States and its allies made a truly historic move by freezing roughly that amount in Russian sovereign assets. Now, strictly looking at the mechanics of the financial system, and totally regardless of whether you believe that was the right geopolitical call or not, the action itself sent an absolutely massive shockwave across the globe. It essentially proved to the world that the money you think you own isn't really yours if it sits within this legacy system. Furthermore, Russia was cut off from SWIFT. Our source material describes this perfectly. SWIFT is basically the WhatsApp for international banking. It is exactly how the world's banks communicate to move money. Imagine being abruptly kicked out of the group chat, but the group chat is your entire national economy. By cutting a major nation off from this vital communication tool, a chilling signal was broadcast to every central bank on Earth. The financial lifeline you absolutely depend on survive can be switched off instantly if you cross Washington. And that stark realization catalyzed a massive shift. Section 4, enter BRICS and the unit, building the ultimate backup plan. The original BRICS coalition, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, realized they desperately needed an infrastructure that operates entirely outside of Washington's rules. But they didn't just stop there. In 2024, they dramatically expanded, adding major geopolitical and energy heavyweights, Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Iran, and Egypt. Think about the scale here. This coordinated global movement now represents over a quarter of the entire global economy and contains almost 50% of the world's population. This is a formidable, highly capable coalition. And they're using that incredible new scale to launch a real technological alternative. In January 2026, a heavily significant financial shift quietly took place. A blockchain-based settlement tool known as the unit moved from a mere concept. Actually, scratch that. It wasn't just a concept anymore. It moved into a live operational pilot program. The explicit goal of this tool is to provide a neutral measuring stick for pricing global commodities without needing the US dollar at all. Let's break down exactly how they're pulling that off. To achieve actual stability, the unit is built on a foundation of 40% physical gold and 60% local BRICS currencies. It is designed from the ground up to be completely neutral. It totally removes the reliance on a single foreign government's fiat currency and instead relies on tangible assets and a diversified basket of member currencies. But, a new currency unit is totally useless without the plumbing to actually transport it across borders. That brings us to Section 5, bypassing the traditional pipes. Introducing mBridge. Just compare the old, heavily monitored legacy system that was always routed through New York correspondent banks via the SWIFT network to the new, decentralized reality of mBridge. Launched as a live platform in 2024, mBridge allows these countries to engage in direct cross-border trade. No JP Morgan, no Citi, no New York regulators watching over their transactions. It is a direct peer-to-peer trade pipe for sovereign nations. It's a real game changer. When you lay this rapid evolution out chronologically, the acceleration of global de-dollarization is just absolutely staggering. In 2022, the trust is broken with the sanctions shockwave. Just 2 years later, in 2024, mBridge goes live and BRICS dramatically expands its membership. And by January 2026, the unit begins its pilot program to utilize those brand new pipes. This isn't some slow, gradual drift. This is a full-on sprint toward financial independence by half the globe. So what does this parallel infrastructure actually mean for the world's stage today? Section 6, the power of optionality, the end of a monopoly. We are already seeing the real-world effects of this massive shift. This is no longer just theoretical. Central banks are buying physical gold at the fastest pace in modern history. India is entirely bypassing the dollar to buy crude oil from the UAE using Indian rupees. Brazil and China have formally agreed to settle their bilateral trade in their own local currencies. And even Saudi Arabia, literally the cornerstone of the petrodollar system, is openly discussing accepting Chinese yuan for its oil sales. It's kind of a fascinating irony, right? Using cutting-edge blockchain technology to pivot right back to ancient gold and local currencies. So here is the main thing you should take away from all of this. The US dollar isn't going to just vanish in a puff of smoke tomorrow. It's for sure not dying overnight. But its absolute, unquestioned monopoly, that is ending. And it's ending right now. For over 80 years, countries used the dollar simply because there was absolutely no other choice. Today, because of blockchain technology, BRICS expansion, mBridge, and the unit, real alternatives finally exist. The monopoly has been broken by optionality. Which leaves us with a massive, absolutely crucial question to ponder. As this new parallel financial system goes fully operational, what does a world with true financial optionality look like for your future? How is this going to impact the prices of the goods you buy every day, the strength of your savings, and the balance of global power? Think about that, let me know your thoughts down in the comments, and make sure you subscribe so we can continue to deeply analyze these untold financial stories together in our next explainer.